I am Gimba Umar. Now the 2023 presidential elections is getting deeper and deeper with so many concerns and permutations coming through. We're going to take a holistic look at some of the likely outcomes as we try to set an agenda and set the pace, just so that Nigerians are able to, make their own decisions to understand where this could take us to. I'm now being joined by Aisha Yesufu. She is indeed one of the pioneers of the EndSARS protest. She joins us on the show, as well as a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Paul Ananaba. He joins us as well as Alhaji Tanku Yakassai. I want to thank you all for making this a reality, and of course, having you to be panelists on this show. Let's start with you, Alhaji Yakassai. For the APC, the PDP, and Labour Party, what do you make of their chances of getting 2/3 majority across states in the country?
I started by saying that the constitutional requirement is not for them to get 2/3 majority of the vote, but to get a simple majority, even if it is by one, but plus 25% in 2/3 of the 36 states of the Federation, which are roughly around 24 states. So it's not the 2/3 of the total votes, it's 25% in 2/3 of the states in the Federation.
So if you say they just require 25% across 2/3 across states in the country, which of the candidates do you think has perhaps, the likelihood to achieve that at the moment? Because it seems to suggest that this is going to be an election that will run across regional lines, and the North may be tilted towards a northern president, the East will be tilted towards an eastern president, and the Southwest will be tilted towards a southern president. How does that equation, permutate for you to ensure that perhaps maybe somebody comes up with that requirement that you're talking about?
To begin with, we can assess the possibilities of each party getting the requirements. I think, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 parties you mentioned have the possibility of getting the requirement or near to it. But one may not because of the geographical spread, limited geographical spread in the country, because the parties must have a national spread to be able to get 25% in 24 states in the Federation. A party that does not have that opportunity has no possibility of getting the requirement during the election. So to begin with, I don't want to mention parties, but I think out of the 3 you mentioned, I think the possibility is only 2 will be able to make that make up that requirement.
Let me get your thoughts, Paul Ananaba, senior advocate of Nigeria. This is really a time to understand how the politics will play out. Do you think that any of the candidates will get that 25% as Alhaji Yakassai puts it?
Let me start by appreciating Alhaji Yakassai because he's a living legend. It's a privilege to be on the same panel with him. I pray that God will give him a lot more years of good health. As a young man, I had followed his contributions to this country, and I'm happy to speak along with him. I agree entirely with the sage, the elder statesman, that as it stands today, 2 of the 3 parties can get 25% in 2/3 of the states. Because in many of these states, they have either governors, or senators, House of Reps, House of Assembly. That's how these votes come in. Yes, one of the parties is a new party in terms of governance, not in terms of founding. The structures in each of the states, we can't see, but we cannot determine all that the electorate will do. But we are looking at what is available, what we can analyze, only doing analysis. That does not mean that people cannot, Nigerians cannot vote according in a different manner. All we are doing is to analyze so that people can pick up from there. But having said that, you went into vice presidents. I don't think we can do a serious analysis of the vice presidents now that the parties have actually got vice presidents. Out of the three, for the purpose of this discussion, even four, we have people who have parties saying that they are placing some names in position. It's only virtually one of the parties that has said, this is our vice president. So it will not be fair to analyze along with parties that have said, okay, we have not firmed up on our vice president. And I think that development in our law is not correct, it's not good. Going forward, we should amend that area of the law. Once you have nominated your vice president, you have nominated it, so that we don't continue this dilly-dallying and waiting game. However, this election will be keenly contested, and I don't actually believe that it may go only on ethnic lines, but any consensus and meticulous political analyst can predict what the election will likely be.
Okay, let me come in here and look at this triangle, if you will. I mean, it's clearly Wazobia. A lot of people are calling it that. Aisha, you have been watching the political scenario very recently, and the youths seem to be making a statement. Go out there, get your PVC, and it seems to be the sound of Obi resonating every now and then. Do you think that the youths have that capacity to come out, despite the odds of being in party, despite the odds of Labour Party not being a popular party at the moment? Do you think they can pull through and say, okay, Obi is the candidate that we want, and then the whole, if not maybe 60, 70% of the youths trying to get their PVCs now say that we're casting our votes for Peter Obi?
Thank you so much for having me, Gimba. It's a pleasure being here, and it's also an honor to be among great Nigerians. Thank you. So first of all, I think there's a party that it's necessarily not on the ballot paper. I think that party can be called the party of the Nigerian people, and it's really waxing strong. We have a situation right now where the youth of Nigeria, they are tired of the bad governance that they have seen. They are tired of the lack of accountability. They are tired of the lack of transparency. And they are saying enough is enough, that indeed they want to take their future into their own hands. They have seen their parents sort of like run the country aground. I remember as a little girl, I used to say to my father, when he would tell us all the glorious stories of the university days, how they would give them one chicken for 2 people and stuff like that. And I would say to my father, but you never maintained that for me to get. And right now, my children are also saying to me, the Nigeria that I had, I couldn't maintain that for them. And so we've reached a situation where the youth are just tired. And so things are absolutely different. Going into the 2023 election, it's going to be an interesting one, and there's nothing that is sure. Like you did mention, we are talking, for the purpose of this discussion, we are talking about 3 parties, and the fact that, let's say these are the runners, but we have youth who are now saying that they want to be the ones in charge. So when I talked about this party of the Nigerian people, that it's across one of the parties, let me say Labour Party, might not be as strong as the other two parties, APC and PDP, but there is something about the people taking ownership of the structures of the party, taking ownership of this whole situation and doing things the way that they want to, and they're working across the country. And so this is something that is really quite interesting. Let me go back to like when the EndSARS protest happened. A lot of people, we saw a protest not like the ones we have been used to. We saw the youth coming out and doing things differently. They were negotiating, they were on the streets, they weren't doing the kind of negotiation that we have. And going into politics, that's what they're doing also. And so they're building their structures across ground. They're doing all of this. On the issue of the ethnicities of the candidates as so far, it's quite interesting. There are some who are going with the father. Okay, it might be because this person is is from my ethnic place, or we have the same religion, or stuff like that. But at the same time, there are people who are sick and tired of that because they have been able to see that it does help you in any way, whether you have whoever the person is that is in office. If the person is from your own place, it does not help you. So that in a way is sort of like freeing a lot of, most especially amongst the younger people, freeing them from that whole hold of, oh, we have to go the ethnic way, or we have to go the religious line. I will quickly round off by saying that on the issue of the vice presidential candidates, I do agree with Prof with the fact that we need to have all this place holding. It really is just, we need to change the laws. We need to have the laws that just ensure when you have someone, that's a person. But at the same time, there should also be enough time for people to be able to have the time to choose who is going to be their running mate. A running mate is very important. This is the person that peradventure the president is unable to take on the work, the vice president steps in. So we need to get people, not just people who are competent, but also people who have character and capacity. And so there's a need for time more to be able to get this. At the moment, there's only one candidate. I think that's the PDP candidate who has his vice president, his running mate locked down. The others do not have that yet, and that needs to be worked upon. Thank you.
Alhaji Yakassai, do you think that the youth movement in Nigeria now who are crying out, go and get your PVCs, do you think they will have an impact as to pushing their votes to a particular candidate?
Yes and no. Yes, because they have the votes. Unfortunately, I doubt if they have the candidates. Of the three major parties that you mentioned, I wouldn't say they don't have program that will appeal to the youth. But I think, I don't know, the youth may not feel they are part of the process in any of the three political parties. They have the votes, and therefore, ultimately, they will be the deciders of who becomes the president of this country. What I'm saying is that the three political parties, to my mind, do not represent as such the age bracket that you're talking of as youth. But they still have a very important role to play because they will have the majority of the votes and they will decide whoever will be the president of this country. So let them study the programs of the various parties contesting the election. And on the basis of that, let them decide which program is best suited for their requirements, so that they will be able to vote for candidates of that party with a better program. They will try in the future to make sure that one of them is also a candidate. But for the time being, except probably Obi, the two others are not of their own bracket.
Let me come to you, Mr. Paul Ananaba. What do you make of the youth's, outcry? We want Obi. We hear on social media and just about everywhere that they're saying this. Do you think that they have that capacity to deliver Obi as the president of Nigeria in 2023?
Well, the youth cannot be neglected in any society. Even if they don't have the majority number, they represent the future. But I'm happy that they brought a spice into the electoral process. They have set the elderly ones thinking. They have set everything we are on. You can see INEC that was begging people to come and register for and collect PVC. INEC is overwhelmed with people, with youth coming in to say, yes, so that is the political consciousness they brought the spice. They cannot be neglected. But it may not also mean that we should say that the youth is monolithic. The youth is not monolithic. Maybe a majority may favor a particular candidate. Some youth will also find persuasion from other candidates. Now, what we are, which I agree with the elder statesman, is let the youth not vote because there's a bandwagon effect. Let the youth individually assess the candidates, because the future is that of the youth. When I was in primary school, I was promised by those who are ruling us now and leading, that by the time I will grow older, that there will be house for all, road for all, electricity for all, education for all. That's what I was promised in the 70s. Today, those same people are still the people leading us. I have graduated, I've become a senior advocate of Nigeria for many years. They are still leading us. I have no opportunity to rule or to lead or to do anything. So even if I have opportunities, it's limited, because how will I compete with that generation? So the youths are important. They have the capacity to deliver any candidate they want.
Okay, now, if I may chip in, just to, sorry, not to cut you short, but when you look at the permutations and you assess the calculations leading up to these elections, do you see, for instance, that a particular party, say the APC or the PDP or even Labour Party, do you see any of them coming such a point that none gets the 25% required majority, 25% majority that is required for them to become president? And in a case where none of them gets that, what then happens? Are we looking at a runoff?
We have always had runoff in Nigeria. And you are familiar with the language, inconclusive election. But I think there will be an outright winner. I think that, I'm saying that because we have up to 7 months of emergence of the candidates. Nigerians will have enough time to examine these candidates. The parties will have enough time to market themselves. Even the youth we are talking about, we cannot take it for granted that the youth has actually supported any particular candidate, even though presently they are favoring P2B, which is obvious. But within the coming days and months, each of these candidates will also respond to the youth in some ways. And then we'll be able to know, and many of the youth will now make up their mind where they will finally go. What I hear the youth saying is, let us depart from the past bad governance. I don't even hear the youth as actually too tied to a particular name as such. But they are tied to P2B, for example, because he represents what the youth is really yearning for. And these are things that will be on the table for discussion by the parties as they bring in their manifesto, if there is any, and canvas. But as it stands today, the youths are identifying with the party they think is thinking in their direction.
Even I believe you're talking about Labour Party, Peter Obi, but Labour Party doesn't have the structure. Will there be a defiance of structure in this case?
Well, structure is human beings. The human beings that will vote. 6 months is also enough time for the youths if they finally agree that, if majority of Nigerians agree, not just the youths, that they will go to a particular party. It's enough time for them to structure in terms of having people in the House of Reps and Senate may not be there. But we have seen where there's a governor with majority of the House of Assembly from the other party. But having said that, I am saying that it is too early to be too definite to say this is exactly what will happen, because each of the parties are not going to fold their arms. APC, PDP, even the Labour Party, we have to respond to the political current. And as we go closer, it will be clearer where Nigerians will go.
Let me get your thoughts on this, Aisha, because you have been one of the front, pioneers at the forefront when we had the EndSARS protests. And a lot of people thought that perhaps the youths were not as coordinated, not as, ready to, make that statement to get what the youths want. Do you see a scenario, for instance, if these elections get to a run the runoff, because we're trying to protect, whatever it is that we have to protect, and we don't want to have a kind of scenario that we had for the EndSARS. We don't want burning of government houses and, all this chaos occasioned by that. But do you, for instance, see any eventuality if a political party is announced the winner of these elections and another party says, no, I do not accept these elections, I do not accept the results, and then chaos breaks through, God forbid. But is that a likely scenario?
Thank you so much, Gimba. So first of all, before I answer the question, I would just like to state here that the violence that we witnessed during EndSARS protests was caused by the Nigerian government. And I make this statement with all sense of responsibility. We saw where the Nigerian government used thugs, which were brought in government vehicles. And up to today, we are still asking for some of these thugs whose pictures are out there and videos for the government to do something. They haven't done anything. We saw a situation where the police thugs were actually ferried in police vehicles and in military vans, and they were used to attack the protesters. The protesters were peacemaking protesters. They did everything within the ambit of the law. We saw where government will come at them on the 20th of October 2020 and attack them and actually shoot and kill protesters. So when we're talking about violence, please let's not keep referring the violence and putting it on the place of the protesters. It was the government that brought in violence, that didn't understand how to deal with the situation. We saw what happened. It wasn't the norm. It wasn't the kind of protest that we normally have. We saw youth coming out to say that they are going to do this on their own. They refused to have a central leadership. They refused, they were negotiating and also at the same time being on the street. They didn't do the traditional kind of negotiation. And as we go into the election also, we're seeing different creativity from the youth. They are not doing the traditional things that are normally expected. One of the things that the EndSARS protest did was, first of all, it emancipated a lot of the youth. And then they had a reason for them to be more interested in the elections. And that is what we are seeing right now. For those of us who lived under military, I was 10 when the president became head of state and took over, I think that was 1980, December 31st, 1983. And so most of us have gone through military era, and we're passionate about the election. We know what democracy, the fight that people had to fight to get this democracy. The most of the youth we have today, they've never experienced that. So for them, the EndSARS protest is that first thing that have been like an eye-opener for them to understand that they really need to take part in governance. The issue of just doing their own thing, having their fun, not being interested, that era is over. And they're taking it on now, and they're bringing this on. So there is nothing about violence being expected from the Nigerian youth or the electorate. It's more from the people in charge of the state security machinery. And so that's what we should be worried about, for them to understand that indeed, if the election doesn't go their way, they should let it be. We're looking at election. There's still a time away. There's something that is going on now, which is about candidate rather than party. What we've had over the years is that people just blindly, the bandwagon effect, just vote for parties and just put them in there because they come from certain parties. And that's why you always hear them say that, oh, look, it's only party A or party B that can win election. But what we are having right now is that there's a discussion of, let's look at the credentials of every candidate. And people are making their choices based on that. And people are building structures based on that. Prof said it all. Structures are people. Structures are not buildings. Structures are not party machineries. Structures are actually people, and people can decide to build structures the way across Nigeria, the way they want to, and they're already doing it by people coming together in different places, and they're putting things on ground and say that this is the candidate that they want to support. As we go on, I see nothing is certain about 2023 election. That's the beauty of it. It's not the kind of election we had before, where candidates were so sure that it's going to be them just because they belong to a party. Now they have to contend with electorates who are saying, we are the ones that are going to make the choice now. Yes, your party, your delegates might have chosen you. We will have the final say. And they're taking it seriously. And I think that's the thing that we should encourage. The youth right now, yes, they might not, there's no youth candidate per se, but the thing is that they are saying they have the power to decide who it is that becomes the president, the governor, the House of Rep member, the senator, those in the state houses of assembly, and they're using that power. And we should encourage that, because that's what democracy is really about. Not the one. What we've had all this while is that we have endorsements, they select, and then we are forced to just endorse. But in the 2023 election will be something that will be happening, and we might have a runoff. It's possible. These are all the things that everyone should be prepared for. Thank you.
Before I switch over to other guests, let me get your views on this. In a recent video, we saw the Pastor Okotie, Chris Okotie. He was appealing to Peter Obi to accept an interim government. What do you make of that?
Interim government in what sense?
He wants an interim government from the fallout of the elections, believing that no candidate will emerge winner in this contest, and an interim government may have to come into place. And he's appealing to Peter Obi to accept an interim government in an eventuality as such.
Oh, so first of all, I'm not a lawyer, but I think when we talk about renov, there's no how that there wouldn't be an emergence of a candidate, right? If they don't get the requirement, like alleged Yakassai did mention of the fact that 25%, the 2/3, 25% in 2/3 of the state, a simple majority, even if it's with one, and then you have 25% in that 2/3. If it's not there, then there will be a runoff, right? And when there's a runoff, it's just simple majority, who is the one that has the highest vote. So there's no how that we can have an emergence of a winner in the 2023 election. There will be a process to which we get to that winning state, and that has to be followed. But I do hear a lot of people who believe that 2023 election, it might not hold. We need to have interim government. I'm like, who is going to choose? Who is going to be the ones to decide how the interim government will look like? Who is going to choose them? Who is going to have them? All of this kind of permutations, we've had them over the years. As far back as 2015, it was said that election will not hold, that the military might take over, or they might do this. It's all of these permutations. We came to 2019, the same thing, and going into 2023, the same thing is also being said. I think what is most important is for citizens to understand that, look, this is the time for every one of us to decide who is it that we want to lead us. Let people get their PVC, which is a beautiful thing with the new electoral. By the way, the new electoral act is a game changer, and it has shaken the whole political process, not the way that it used to be. So there's, first of all, what we even have now, whereby we already have the candidates and we have a long time to election. You know, before it wasn't like that. It was always 3 months to election, and people don't even have the opportunity to even decide to go and get their PVC. So there's a whole lot going on. We shouldn't make all of those permutations in terms of, oh, there might be an interim government. No, at the end of the day, we will follow the process through. What will happen is that let the best person win, and whoever Nigeria decides is the winner, every one of us, when that happens, whether it's our candidate or not our candidate, we should accept it, we should hold the person accountable, and then we should just keep going on with governance. Nation building is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and every one of us must participate in it. Thank you.
Alhaji Yakassai, we have 19 northern states in Nigeria. Most of them are, APC states, as it were. What are your thoughts on these calculations for who gets which state? And do swing states really matter in terms of Kano, for instance, that can deliver easily 2 million votes? Lagos State can deliver 2 million votes as they have in the past, and possibly Bauchi State can also deliver 2 million votes.
Well, Jimba, I think when we are talking about all these things, we should also do that in conjunction with looking at the provision of the Constitution. The framers of our Constitution provided for 2/3, 25% of the vote cast in 2/3 of the 36 states. You don't have 36 states in the north. You don't have 36 states in the south. The idea is that the south and the north must come together to produce 24 states to give you 25% of their votes is a must. And everybody should understand that. I don't think we are in a situation whereby at the end of the election there will be riots. I don't think so. I think virtually Nigerians have accepted the supremacy of the ballot box, that if election is cast, votes should be cast, should be counted, and whoever is the winner will be the winner. We did that several times, and I think we'll continue to do that. Talking about the youth, when I came in touch with politics was 1946. I was 21 years old. Till today, there was 1953 crisis. What brought about that crisis was a different situation. Now, if there is an election and a winner emerged, I don't think there will be riot all over the country. There may be some attempts in 1 or 2 places. And I can tell you that even the one that happened before will not happen by accident. It was organized. And I think people don't have that capacity now to organize rioting all over the country. I don't think there is any candidate today who is in charge of the majority of states in Nigeria. Yes, there are candidates with support all over the country, but they are not in charge, totally in charge of the majority of the people in most of the states in the country. And therefore the possibility of some candidate losing to incite people to go to riot is very, very minimal. And I'm glad that we're putting the military mantra behind us. Now we have candidates who are all civilians who will definitely struggle for mandate of the people by their consent.
But what do you think? What do you think will be the deciding criteria for these elections? Will it be along regional lines? Will it be along traditional lines? Will it be along customary lines? Will it be along religious lines?
The program of the political parties, what they will do for the country, will be the deciding factor, not ethnic, not religious, because we don't have any ethnic group that is in control of 24 states in Nigeria. We don't have any religious group that has in control or that is in control of 24 states in Nigeria. So it is the program, and it is time that we begin to focus our attention on what the candidate promises to do or promised to do for us in terms of program, rather than sentiment of tribe and religion. We did that before, it didn't pay us. And I think it's time we forget about that. We concentrate on program. That will force people who are coming to contest election also.
But when you talk about the programs, let me make it clear for you. When you talk about the programs, these are the programs. Peter Obi says that he's going to handle security, education, and the economy. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed says that he's going to handle security and the economy. And then Atiku Abubakar says that he wants to unify the country. So these are broad areas and are very clear by the three running frontline runners in these elections. If you say that we should be looking at the programs, these programs are clear. So who tops the chart?
Gimba, these are not the program. The program are the manifesto of the political parties. These are things that one individual just decided to pick. Manifesto of a political party, I can tell you that when I was secretary of my party, we sent people all over the country to find out the feeling of the people and what was worrying them. And then we come back, we set up a committee, and the finding of the people that went around the country will be the basis upon which we draw up the manifesto. And tomorrow, there will be a time before the election when the political parties will also come out with their manifesto. Manifesto is not to pick 2-3 items and say it's your program. Manifesto will look at all round. You see, we have to have a manifesto produced by the political parties to base our choice on the basis of what they promise to do and their ability to do it. People can say they will provide roads, they can provide electricity, but did they tell you how they are going to get the money, how much it will cost them to provide the roads and to provide electricity? Manifesto will talk about that, how they are going to generate funds to provide for the services they are promising to provide. And this must be the basis upon which a manifesto of a political party in Nigeria today that you should present. I think the country is tired of people coming to mention 2 or 3 things and then begin to say it's their program. It's not their program. Is somebody either hiring a university lecturer to write beautiful English for him, or just get some of his friends to tell him what area he should concentrate on. Manifesto is a product by a collective group of people who are asked to produce a manifesto that will touch on every aspect of life in the society. And they will also provide the trajectory upon which the manifesto will be realized. And also they will provide how the parties or the governments will generate the necessary finances to be able to implement. It's no longer like before where people will come with 2 items or 3 and say it's not their manifesto.
Okay, let me get the thoughts of Paul and Ananaba on this. Does the manifesto really matter? Because we've heard manifestos have not really changed in the past 30 years in Nigeria. It's always still been about security, the economy, and corruption. These are the 3 broad areas which the current administration says it will fight. People are still debating on whether or not it has been able to achieve that. But when you look at the broad, submissions of the three candidates, which one do you think is likely to, scale through the process? As Alhaji Yakassai says, that they will have to come up with a manifesto that breaks it down further.
The manifestos are so important because that is what the party is selling. And that's what the last statesman is saying. It is because we have not allowed our manifestos to play their proper role. That is why we have not gotten it right. And we must get it right. On what basis will you hold a political party or a government accountable? It's on their manifesto. So we have 6 months now. Let's begin to tell Nigerians and the political parties, go and tell us what you want to do, a proper manifesto. So we'll be looking at it. You look at the current APC national government, you see that many of the things they promised, they've not been able to do them. That's why the country is in the state it is. A PDP didn't also do in their time. So the manifestos are important. We must emphasize it. That's why I was saying that the youth should spend their time to find out exactly why they are supporting or voting any particular candidate. Not by sentiment, not by tribal, not by religious, not by fancy. It has to be underscored in the manifesto. So every party should go back and look at their manifesto. Like the other statesman said, it's not a matter of this is what I want to do. Governance is not by the president alone. Governance is a more serious business. It's a party thing, it's a teamwork, and that's what we want to see going forward.
Okay, I'll take that as your final words because we're running out of time now. But Aisha, what will be your closing words with regards to the elections 2023, the candidates and their choice of running mates and their manifesto, what it has to present, what it presents for the youths?
Thank you very much, Gimba. I think for me, my final words would be that candidates should vote out of conviction and not out of fear. And that people should realize that indeed power belongs to the people. And whatever it is that people decide, that's what is going to happen. Over the years, many people, we've been disillusioned. We've been made to feel that elections don't matter. We've been made to feel that manifestos don't matter. They do matter. They're very important. And citizens must understand that, look, we must scrutinize. We must criticize candidates. They are not messiahs. They are not our lords. They are actually looking for a job. No matter how much you want a candidate to win, we must never forget the fact that the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land, and that the office of the president is only the highest political office in the land. And so it's very important for citizens to understand this is not about religion, this is not about ethnicity, this is not about age or gender, this is about competence, this is about character, this is about capacity, this is about courage, this is about patriotism, this is about anyone who is it that is going to work hard for Nigeria. And let's also not forget that it is not only about the executive position, the arm of government. We also have the legislative arm of government, and the legislative arm of government is the bedrock of democracy. And so Nigerians must be very, very invested on who are the people that they are sending to their state houses of assembly and who are the people that they are sending to the National Assembly, because at the end of the day, the power really belongs to the legislative arm. They're the ones who will make laws for us. If we want a new constitution, they are the ones who will give us a new constitution. They're the ones who have oversight function. They're the ones who will hold executive accountable, and also, so they're the ones, they have that oversight function. And so we must be ready to invest in all the process. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. We have 8 months, and we must put our all in to have a nation that we can be proud of and call our own. Thank you.
Aisha Yesufu, a rights activist, I most sincerely thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on the program, as well as Alhaji Tanko Yakassai, a politician and of course an elder statesman. Many thanks indeed for talking to us, as well as the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul Ananaba. I want to thank all of you for being part of this show. And to everyone who's watching, that's it on the program at this time. I am Gimbo Umar, and bye for now.